Welcome to episode 4 of Get Chatty About Your Local Businesses, a podcast about small businesses operated or managed by LGBT plus or allies. Please note that I swear and I am talking to an area that I don't know much about, especially this time. So randomness is guaranteed, and consider yourself warned. I'm keen to bring more awareness to smaller operations in Melbourne and Victoria, and it doesn't mean that you have to be in the business to listen to this podcast. And there are many spaces in between, like side hustles, independent projects, artistic ventures, or in this case, a non-profit. Regardless of who you are, I hope you pick up bits and pieces that help with what you do. I had a great time recording this episode with Dr. Jennifer Payne about her program called STEMPals, which is part of a non-profit called Curiosity Factory. STEMPals is a pen-pal program that connects grade 5 to 6 students with STEM professionals, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It is a letter exchange program that aims to inspire the next generation to become more STEM literate, which is very much not me. That's why it was very random. Anyway, in the past, I mentioned to others that I started my side business in 2010 because I didn't feel the space around me represented me well. That might have been why Jen and I got along. There are ongoing challenges in breaking stereotypes about scientists and reaching out to the diversity in the STEM space because many don't perceive themselves as such. So there are a few hurdles ahead. Please stay with us for the next half an hour or so because Jen shared fascinating stories about a styrofoam cup and a slice of bread, but they are two different stories. And yeah, enough of me. I think it's time to jump to the interview. And thank you. Today we have Dr. Jennifer Payne, a biochemist and molecular biologist. Did I get it correctly?
You do. And some days I even wear a innate immunologist hat or a bioengineering hat, depending upon when you speak to me. Yeah, all
I
those big, wonderful words. Yes.
wow. I was about to kind of segue to the question is how should I call you? Can I call you Jen
Of
or
course.
Dr. Payne, Dr. Jennifer, or whatever? I
You,
don't
you can
know.
call me Dr. Payne, you can call me Jen. I mean, if you want the evil scientist name, I think Dr. Payne is the most appropriate there. But if we're not going for evil scientist and more like just general hi, how are we going chat, go with Jen.
Lovely. Well, let's go with Jen. I think this is because you are actually running a really good and friendly program to help people. So you run a not-for-profit called STEMPal and Curiosity Factory. And can you tell the audience a little bit about it?
Sure. So, Curiosity Factory is a not-for-profit set up to run well, our first program is called STEMPals, and it's a pen pal program that helps inspire our next generation to be more STEM literate because it is a pen pal program that matches grade 5, 6 students with their very own STEM professional to exchange good old-fashioned handwritten letters across the year.
Fantastic. And can you tell me a little bit about why you made a start for that?
I grew up in a small country town where the closest thing to a scientist was actually my high school STEM teachers. And you really can't be who you can't see. So having experienced that and then coming to the city to actually become a scientist myself, I really wanted to give back. And one way was to help ensure that the voices of our STEM professionals, amazing science that's happening around Australia, can actually be heard and be seen by our budding scientists or future that's happening in our primary schools. And the science behind that is that by the age of 12, you've made a decision as to what you don't want to be. By the age of 12, which is right on primary school age. And the other thing there is what I found absolutely amazing is our primary school teachers are generalists. They're doing an amazing job, and especially through primary school, with all the layers that they have to learn. And then COVID hit, and some of my friends are primary school teachers, and hearing the troubles and the tribulations that they're having and just wanting to be able to inspire their students. We worked together with them and we came up with this STEMPal program to help inspire their students because I used to come into classrooms and give lessons to primary school kids about the wonders of science and that sort of thing. And I couldn't do that during the wonderful Melbourne COVID lockdowns. And so instead, to be able to still give kids back this science and outreach experience, we set up the STEMPal program with primary school kids to then exchange letters with. So it helped the scientists still feel in touch and amazing, but also the kids as well to have this experience of having their very own scientist, STEM professional, write letters to them across the year. It was great, really uplifting. And then I was like, right, we've got to have this keep on happening, and saw the amazing and all the amazing stories that were coming back from the teachers of how wonderful of an impact this was having on them and the kids. And I was like, right, well, we can't let this die. And that made me start a not-for-profit called Curiosity Factory. And that was the beginning to a wonderful, wonderful story.
It is really wonderful. I think one of the there's two things that really fascinate me. One is writing a letter, because no one's right like no one writes anything today. When you open a letterbox, you find bills and, and you find someone asking you for money or something like that. But I think personally, even like we record this around close to Christmas time, even receiving a Christmas card in the letterbox, that kind of like a really special feeling. Do you think that by doing that, that kind of would, do you think that could create a special connection to the students and the scientists or STEM professionals that making this, participating in this program?
Yes, I don't know about you, but I still get excited at the prospect of an actual letter in the letterbox. And you light up and you go, okay, who's it from? Where's it come from? And you get excited about that fact. And it's that physical nature of it as well. And seeing someone's handwriting and their signature and that tactile nature of actually getting something physical as well. But then, yes, that connection of someone actually cares about what I'm saying and writing a response back. So that uh, bigger than the classroom, someone cares. This is actually more meaningful. And so it ends up being the students are writing for purpose, and the scientists are also getting that amazing feeling of some beautiful, amazing kids' drawings coming into them and asking them these great questions, that curiosity of a primary school student. It's amazing some of the questions that they ask and come up with. So yes, I think it's great fun for the scientist and the student. And that does form a connection between the two of them.
Well, in that case, I think this is the perfect segue, because I want to ask about your experience as you writing these letters.
And I wouldn't give that up. So despite running it, I still write letters because it's just that joy of having a person writing back to you and asking all those questions and finding out about them. So one of my STEM pals absolutely loved lizards. And I myself have a blue tongue lizard as a pet. And so we talked about lizards in our letters and he wanted to become a herpetologist. And so we were talking about how you could potentially become a herpetologist and what that pathway could look like and how you could use all the wonderful lizard facts that he had gained in his actual work life and use that passion on his way to love the job that he could potentially be going in the future. Well, another one, we did this great experiment, hundreds of kilometers apart. We both took out loaves of bread and a piece of white bread and either washed our hands or didn't wash our hands and like rubbed our hands on the base of our shoes and then touched this piece of bread and then put it into a Ziploc bag and waited. And what happened So there's all these little colonies started growing all over the bread, and we compared notes. So what sort of colonies formed on her bread hundreds of kilometers away from my bread, and what different things had been on our shoes and on our hands, and how well hand washing actually worked. So I'm uh, into superbugs and trying to prevent infections. So this was a way of showing that hand washing can really help prevent the spread of germs and bacteria and fungi and help prevent infections and you getting sick by comparing your unwashed hands versus your washed hands and a slice of bread. And so that really sparked this curiosity and made sure that she continued to wash her hands. But also by the end of it, she was really excited about STEM and science and how it affected the world around her.
I think it's amazing that this is something that you can instruct and using daily items to showcase what science is about. Of course, from your point of view as a microbiologist, I don't know the term.
Microbiologist, yes.
Microbiologist, yes. Blooper, I'm keeping this in. I'm keeping this in. And oh gosh, I really needed a coffee. I think personally, I think it's amazing because one of the things that we talked about before is that this is something that we wish we had when we were younger, and it is actually for us that we are living in an age of information being so easily available, but developing knowledge is another step ahead of that. So I I guess what I would like to have a chat with you about is, in addition to having that scientific knowledge, there's actually a lot of benefits of these kind of correspondence, even if the person don't ended up becoming a scientist, isn't it?
Oh, of course. So it's really about that scientific literacy. So sparking that curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking skills. Those three C's, and that ability to be able to take that bombardment of knowledge that we're getting of web,
Information, probably
yeah,
just
information,
information. Yeah.
bombardment of information that's available to be able to then critically analyze and know which you should trust, which you shouldn't trust, where you should go to find more information to improve your knowledge and gain that those skills. So, yeah, that angle around scientific literacy, but it's really applying that critical thinking skills and collaboration and connection, all in one thing.
Inspired individuals, no matter if they ended up being scientists or not. Now, we're going to take a little short break. And after that, we're going to expand that story a little bit because it's not only for scientists. We're going to talk a little bit about like what STEM professionals are. And we'll be back with Jen. Welcome back. And then we got myself, the Chatty creator, and of course my guest Jen here today from STEMPal. Jen, we talked about the process of how like STEMPal uh, can work, and we have some examples about the science space. But STEM professionals cover more than scientists, isn't it?
It does. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So mathematician, engineer, technologists, and scientists are all writing letters. But those terms, like I myself being a microbiologist, biochemist, molecular biologist, innate immunologist, all end in ist, but we've got so much diversity in STEM professionals that it's amazing the people that are actually writing these letters to our students are from such diverse backgrounds and from such diverse skill sets as well. That it's really quite an amazing opportunity for the kids to see such amazing voices being heard directly into their classrooms.
One of the things that we talked about before is because STEM has such a big coverage that sometimes that there are a lot of people who actually work in STEM not knowing that they are actually STEM professionals. It's do you have that issue when you were launching this program in a bigger scale?
I did. So uh, when people often think of a scientist, so think for me, put on your thinking cap, close your eyes, you hear the word scientist. What is the image of the person that you have in front of you?
Like a like an older person in a lab coat.
Yep. So that's very typical. Old white male in a lab coat tends to be the typical image. And so we do this great activity with the kids at the start of the STEMPEL program where they actually draw what they think a scientist looks like. And so we tend to get old white male in a lab coat, probably holding a beaker or a test tube. And then we do it again at the end of the program. And because they've had all these voices, they've seen all these different jobs that they can do, there's such a big diversity of people working outside. So in these pictures, there's people working outside, people in a lab, people at a computer, people going into space, people going down to Antarctica. Amazing diversity of people working in teams by themselves, just an amazing asset of like all these beautiful pictures that the kids are drawing of now what they think a STEM professional is. And then it even includes some of them drawing themselves in those environments as well, which is so great when we see that they then think themselves as a potential scientist or STEM professional. So yes, old white man in lab coat, we're trying to break down that idea. And because there is such a diverse way that you can use a STEM skill set out in the world. And that has been a major problem because when we're trying to recruit STEM professionals, people are still seeing, oh, I don't work in a lab. I'm not wearing a lab coat. I'm not in that wet lab environment. So they don't see themselves as potential STEM pals. And so we have this education that we need to do around recruiting STEM pals because we need to get over that hurdle of, no, you're actually our ideal target, that you can write these letters. You are a technologist, you're a data engineer, you're doing this amazing work that we would love to have your voice as part of our STEM pal community. And so it's, yes, been an upward battle in that regard.
Actually, I'm going to play a little game with you now that I am so sorry that I didn't let you know in advance, but
Oh, great.
I'm I'm just going to say a profession, and with what I think may be a correct description, and if you can tell me if it is a STEM professional or not.
Ooh, okay. It's gonna be fun.
Oh, don't worry. If this part goes to shit, then we can always cut it. Now, these are kind of related to my area in digital marketing, network architect, because they design and build network infrastructure. So, for example, if there is a website setting or a network connection from within an intranet for an organization, such as, are they STEM?
They are. They would be a T. So the T in STEM. Yes.
Wonderful. Now they're also security engineer because, like, look, I mean, cybersecurity have been a big topic these days. Are they STEM?
They are STEM too. Yep. They're also another T.
Oh, there you go. So we talk a lot about clean energy, and one of the clean energy will be, for example, nuclear energy. Are engineers working in this space? Um, are they STEM?
They are STEM. They would be a glorious E that would fill our STEM pals. Yeah, with.
Oh, there you go. So, Jen, can you tell me that one of the biggest challenges that you overcame while preparing and running this program?
Can I give you two? Is that okay?
Go
Two
for it.
challenges. Okay.
Yes.
Two challenges. Number one is around STEM professionals. So we were chatting about scientists and STEM professionals and having this education piece around that who could actually be a STEM pal. And scientists are quite easy to reach because they can associate with scientists, but STEM professionals seem to be a bit harder, that they don't often associate themselves with the word STEM professional and see themselves as STEM professionals. So that's been an interesting challenge, and I'd love to hear your insights around branding and marketing and how you would reach that target of STEM professionals. Um,
I often advise small operation, especially like, when it is small operation, we don't have a huge budget. And it is important that to get the organic side sorted out before we think about advertising. And the thing is, yes, you can create a customized audience to advertise to on LinkedIn. However, let's get the content and that referral happening, a regular educational piece. So for example, you have your website and also you have your social media as in LinkedIn. And I think that's a really good opportunity to have a little bit of like a alphabet soup of what STEM professionals are. I think, for example, that you can have a landing page within stempals.org.au explaining which each letters or how all of these actually mean in a simple term, like, just one sentence, what everything is. And then also you can have at the end of the page, you can have the expression of interest form that for people to sign up. And then another thing is when it comes to professionals, one of the best thing is to having a consistent posting on LinkedIn. Of course, I'm talking about like an organic social point of view, that having that regular posting about, hey, these are also STEM professionals. So it's you will need to go through that every time that at the beginning of the video say, hey, STEM professionals are not just old white men in lab coats. And also make sure that at the end of the video, remind people to reach out to you or make some referrals, that if they know anyone, share this video with them. And I think that will be a really good starting point. In digital marketing, we work a lot with data analysts because we look at what stats stand for. And I always tell people, for example, businesses that I work with or my day job, is that don't look at vanity data. But the thing is, I always need a data analyst to help me explain to people. It's like, just because we got impression doesn't mean that you're getting somewhere. Or like, don't promote an event like 2 days in advance because you are not Beyonce or Taylor Swift. Like, something like that. But then it's always good to have a backup of a data analyst. Are data analysts STEM?
they are STEM professionals, yes. I'd love to
So
have some more data on board. Yep.
oh gosh, yes. Well, look at me. The thing is, isn't it amazing that at the beginning of this conversation, we talk about scientists because, well, I mean, you are a scientist, but then there's how big of this space can be, and so many professionals can actually be there and help inspiring the younger generation of, making sense with the world and take a chance.
Yeah. And have that spark some curiosity and have a actual impact, which is what I love, that it's a short amount of time for you to put in. We're only like 4 hours across the year, but it has a measurable impact on one life and can really be life changing for them. Well, and even for yourself as well, and for the teachers involved. Our other major problem is around reaching primary school teachers. So they're usually not on social media, or if they are, they're often in closed groups. So reaching that target audience can be quite difficult. How would you go about
Oh
coming and,
gosh.
and reaching these audiences?
I like a good challenge. I don't know if I told you that I was looking after social media for an education and technology expo back in 2017 before I moved to Melbourne. It's called EduTech, and it was really interesting because um, there were a list of people, which is fantastic. But the challenge is reach out to the people who are not on the list because kind of like, you don't know what you don't know. but it's important to have that interaction with groups or associations that can might be interested in the expo. But in your case, it would be talk to developing that word of mouth amongst parents group so they can introduce you to warm leads when it comes to STEMs um, teachers that may not be in the networking space. Well, before we wrap up this session, this segment, you mentioned about Antarctica, and I heard of a story before. So, do you mind sharing it with have something to do with a styrofoam cup?
Sure. So, Antarctica, cold, icy place. How is that related to STEMPals? Well, one of our STEM professionals was actually on a voyage down to Antarctica while participating in STEMPals. And so they were going to be driving one of the submarines that was going to go under the ice. And they asked me if they could send a styrofoam cup to their student. This sounds a little bit unusual of a request, and so I had to write back and ask why she was wanting to send a styrofoam cup. And I found out that it was going to be attached onto the submarine on the outside of it and was going to go 1 kilometer under the ice with the sub
Oh
and
God.
then and to the student. And what happens is the student was going to draw on the styrofoam cup, create a picture on it. It's then going to get sent back to the scientist. Is then going to go down to Antarctica, then down 1 kilometer under the ice, where it then shrinks because of the pressure. So as it goes further and further under the water, it gets higher and higher pressure. So your styrofoam shrinks. So your styrofoam cup starts off this kind of size. And by the end, it was a teeny tiny cup that came back up to the surface that our scientists then sent back to the school. And now it's this great resource that comes out whenever they're talking about forces in the classroom. And this amazing little styrofoam cup that's been down to Antarctica and back, thanks to STEMPals and connecting them with a STEM professional who was down in Antarctica.
Yeah, I would imagine even for the teacher that they can just take it out and say, look, this is a living proof of this topic of air pressure that we are talking about. Am I talking about the right thing? Is it air pressure?
Well,
I
water
am not a
pressure in this.
scientist, okay?
Yeah, pressure. Yes. Pressure, water pressure. Yeah.
We're going to take a break in a moment. And when we come back, I am going to hit Jen with a bunch of random questions. Welcome back. And Jen, are you ready for a quick fire round?
I guess. Let's hear it.
What is the one item you couldn't live without?
That I couldn't live without. A good book, or my April dog, so Greyhound.
Don't list everything in your home.
Oh, right.
And
Okay.
don't worry, that's good. What are you like outside of your work?
Outside of my work. Oh, pretty much the same as what I'm like inside of my work, but maybe a bit more fun, hopefully. So I play ultimate frisbee, I go rock climbing, enjoy a good book, I foster greyhounds, I try and stay safe and sanitized. Yeah.
Safe and sanitized. I like it. And
Yeah.
what's I'm gonna put that on the t-shirt. Did you get any feedbacks from the teachers?
Oh, they love the program. They always are sending their thanks to the scientists for writing about their STEM so simply that the students can understand. And the kids, they're saying that their kids can't wait for the letter to be received. And so they see that students are actually turning up more when STEM letters are known to be coming in. So they get better attendance at school. I was like, oh, okay. But they were
That good.
saying that themselves that it's kind of like a cheeky little personal development for them. So they were gaining confidence in teaching STEM areas that they never would have considered before. So because the STEM professionals are writing about these really complex ideas so simply, they themselves have now gained confidence to go, oh, astrophysics, right. Well, that's pretty simple when you explain it like that. They've then gone off and done their own little bit of research and are now teaching astrophysics to their class the next week because of this letter and how simply it was described. But then they're also saying it's not just the STEM literacy that they're seeing improvement for themselves, but it's also giving the kids an opportunity to really write and engage. So one of the teachers was telling me this lovely story about how amazing the program was for some of her students, that she saw that because the program it was bigger than the classroom, it meant that one of her students that had never written a sentence before, really, without help, turned to writing barely a sentence at the beginning of the year to writing full paragraphs by the end, because they wanted to write to their scientists. They wanted to communicate with their scientist. And so they were actually putting full sentences onto a page. And this teacher was absolutely amazed. This was not something that she'd had out of a student. And this was before. So she was taking that letter and actually showing it around the whole school, because everyone, and getting behind this celebration of this improvement in English literacy as well, because of this engagement from outside of the school and someone caring, which was just amazing, of these great stories of impact that just writing a letter can do.
Jen, thank you so much for taking part in this, and of course for anyone who want to find out, particularly like all the STEM professionals, if you're listening, please reach out to Jen. And how can they find you?
Well, they can just head to stempals.org.au and they'll find us there, or on LinkedIn, or follow myself on LinkedIn as well.
There you go. And of course, that if you're on LinkedIn and you know someone that could be a STEM professional that you want to introduce to Jen, reach out to her, or just pass the link of stempals.org.au. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, stempals.org.au, because we are a not-for-profit here in Australia.
Fabulous. And thank you so much for taking part in this. And I wish you luck with this fantastic program. And thank you.
All right. Thank you, Arthur. It's been lovely.
Here's my top 3 learnings from this episode. The stories about students sending a styrofoam cup to their researcher in Antarctica, or the slice of bread in the Ziploc bag, show how engagement can help spark a want to learn and make science more relatable for younger people. Throughout the episode, Jen highlights the benefits of a handwritten format because it is a good way to build a connection between the students and the scientists, and for students to visualize themselves as potential scientists as well. I worked in the art in the past, and I also noticed many emerging artists also see the importance of going to galleries or seeing the experiences of what other artists are doing and their process. So I think we are looking at something here. If you're running a project, spend some time to write down your ideas or steps or bits and pieces on a notebook. I don't mean an app, but a physical book and pen. It might give you a bit of little oomph that you need. One of Jen's MO in setting up STEMPals is helping diversifying STEM professionals in the future. She mentions an activity where students draw their perception of scientists at the beginning and the end of the program. Initially, there were heaps of old white men in lab coats, but by the end, their drawings include people working outside, in space, or themselves as the scientists, showing how she helped them change their perception. Changing perception is an important step to help diversify, no matter which sector you're in. And I think it helped building support in general. Well, she won my support. I'm not a scientist, but I have picked up some interesting points from this conversation. Inspirational and representation matters. In the past, there were way too many talents somewhat buried underneath expectations or perceptions as they went through the school systems. The spark faded, and many grow up still having good careers. But I wonder if they could meet themselves in an alternative universe where they went with it. Who would that version of themselves be? And of course, I was talking about people who are now adults. But what if, by writing a letter every few months, you might be able to help a young person take control of their spark and become a person that they could be? Please take a look at Jen's STEMPal program via the link on the show note. And please also follow this podcast wherever you're listening to and bookmark chattycurator.com. In the next episode will be another interview coming your way. Thanks for your time.